Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm so happy to be coming on today and making a video that I have been looking forward to make for the last year. We are talking about the year of 2021, year ahead forecast. This is going to be a long video with a lot of different content in it. I've decided this year to consolidate all of the signs together in one video with convenient video chapters below, so it's all available with timestamps and chapters for you guys to watch. And as I said, I've been so excited to make this video because 2020 has been an incredible, crazy, unexpected, and tough year for everyone. So by virtue of being here and making this video now, we are officially overcoming that hurdle. The energy of 2020 will echo until Aries season of 2021, so until around March 21st. We're still going to feel quite similar as we have over the year of 2020 because that is how the astrological year system works. We have a calendar new year in the 1st of January, and then as Aries is the first sign in the zodiac, we have an astrological new year on March 21st. Although we are having the incredible new wave conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter at 0 degrees of Aquarius on the solstice of December 21st. So that's going to kind of feel like a new year energy also. We're going to feel like new people. We're going to feel like we're waking up into a new reality. And this particular transit is going to be a factor for all of 2021. And it's going to make us feel new and more alchemical and more capable of making the changes that we've needed to achieve progress in our lives throughout the entire year of 2021. Mark my words here and now, the year of 2021 will feel extremely different than the year of 2020 did in hindsight. So I just want to kind of prepare you guys that we're actually getting out of context moving into 2021. We're not so much working with this long-running ancient wisdom, ancient ideas of who I am, what I represent, the sort of safe, traditional schemata. We are more so working now as we move into 2021, especially by the time we get to March of 2021. We are going to be working with something completely new, completely uncontextual, and something truly progressive, it seems like, as we are really getting into an area of true progress and a healthy type of progress. Sometimes progress can not always be a healthy thing. Sometimes we, forget what we need to take with us. And striving towards a healthy form of progress seems to be one of the best things we can do this year personally. Okay. So as I said, this video is going to have a lot of components. I'm going to start with just talking about the year of 2021 for everybody and what I'm understanding about it, as I'm already kind of doing. And then I'm going to break it down sign by sign. So those timestamps are below, and it should be, if you look into the video stream, you can see sections for the entire video. So first, before we get on with the video, I want to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over on Patreon. Without them, this video would not be coming to you right now. Without Patreon, this channel would not have been possible to turn into a full-time effort. So if you get the chance to go over to Patreon and sign up as a supporter, that would be so helpful in keeping quality content coming and in supporting this YouTube channel. As you know, on YouTube, it's a free product. You get to get all of this for free. And because of that, there are no guarantees for creators when it comes to sustaining themselves. So of course, watching the video is helpful, but you never know with YouTube when it comes to the algorithms, when it comes to demonetization, there is no security there. So if you get the opportunity to go and support this channel on Patreon, if you enjoy this content, there are many options that come. You can pledge whatever you want. You can pledge $1. You can pledge however much you want. And then there are different tiers. You get bonus content. I do weekly forecasts over on Patreon, and as of right now, I am shooting to do those throughout the entire year of 2021. I'm still deciding how I'm gonna, shape up 2021 over there. But it is also coming with a lot of content in return on Patreon. It's not just supporting for nothing. You get a lot of bonus content that is not available here on YouTube. And without further ado, if you want to check out Patreon, it will be linked below and in the top right-hand corner, and I'll put it in the comment sections as a pinned comment as well. Anyway, moving on, let's talk about the year of 2021. So for everybody, regardless of what your sign is, regardless of what placements you have, this year is a year of opportunity. This year is a year of potential prosperity being planted as seeds and also seeing that growth. We've actually had opportunity to plant the seeds of opportunity for the last 3 years, ever since Saturn went into Capricorn in December of 2017. Seeds have been planted all along that time. And now we have a final planting time through about the first half of this year of 2021. And I will say that with this potential for opportunity comes a need for commitment. We should have learned a lot about commitments in 2020 and what it really means to be committed to something or someone. As we move into 2021 and as we have a grander understanding of what commitment is, we now seem to have the ability to pull back and redirect and recommit to what needs to be committed to. Again, imagining what the energy of Aquarius is like. Many astrologers talk about how we are now in the age of Aquarius. It could very well be. And what Aquarius is about redistribution. It's about redirecting. It's about alchemy. The symbolism of Aquarius as a masculine fixed air sign, interestingly, is the water bearer. And there's an interesting kind of riddleistic meaning and symbolism behind why a fixed masculine air sign is symbolized as a water bearer. This is inherently the energy of Aquarius, where things are a little bit tricky and a little bit shifty. And what the energy shows is transferring water from one container to another. So what we're all kind of faced with as a challenge moving into 2021 is, what do we want to transfer in our lives? What energy have we invested in one place and are now ready to move into a new place? At the tail end of 2020, this can feel freaky. This can feel frightening, knowing that we're about to transfer the energy in our lives this way. So what we've committed ourselves to for such a long time may no longer feel authentic. What we've been loyal to, what we've made stable, what we've made work in our lives may no longer really feel like it's as safe as it used to be. And a lot of us are going to have this sort of like gut instinct, like, oh my gosh, I need to totally withdraw from this area of focus and redirect completely to this area of focus. This is like a good and a bad thing of Aquarius. It's neither good nor bad, but it's a fixed sign. So it's not really halfway with things. Like, it's not kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to kind of keep doing this. I'm going to pull a little bit out of it and I'm going to put it back over here. You know, if you're thinking of careers, it's like, I'm going to keep doing this on the side and kind of shoot towards this over here. It can do that. It has the ability to do that, but it is not really the way of a fixed sign. It's kind of all or nothing. It's like, okay, I either completely withdraw and completely put energy over here, or I don't withdraw and I make this better. So as we're kind of navigating that psychologically right now, it can be really hard. And why it can be really hard is because we've learned the lessons of the sign of Capricorn over 2020. And those lessons have not come easy, it would not seem, because we've gone through, you know, we all know what we've gone through, and it's something that we can't really talk too much about on YouTube. Again, that's why Patreon is so great. But anyway, we know what we went through in 2020, and we know that it was a hard time. And we know that we've all learned lessons. We know that we've all been getting stronger also. You know, even though it feels like we have had to work with weakness and we've had to admire our own weakness and come face to face with that, I think that we're actually a lot stronger than we were before we went into 2020. And I think with this newfound strength, we have to apply it right and we have to apply it well. And as we do that, we are thinking about where our energy is invested and where it is focused at, and how are we going to pull that out and redistribute that. Redistribution is a huge theme in 2021, and it might just be the biggest key word. And it has to be done with purpose. It has to be done deliberately. It has to be done in a way that is not clumsy. Again, especially as we're going through this shift into this Aquarian new wave on the cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn on the solstice of December 21st, it can feel a little bit clumsy at first. We don't really know what we're doing. We don't, what? Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? What is my identity? Huge possibility for identity crises, especially in the first half of 2021, but I think that you'll get it together. If you feel that, I think that it will inevitably come together for you, but it will take focus and it will take a redistribution, it feels, of certain energies in your life. And it's also not going to feel as hard once we get into 2021. So I want you maybe right now in this video to think about like what feels hard in my life right now. Capricorn is about hard things. It's about difficulties. It's ruled by Saturn. So it's about the difficulties that we go through to make us more strong and more enduring in life. And right now, moving towards this calendar new year, or whenever you're watching this video, what is hard right now in my life? What am I really struggling with? Any of those things that are coming to mind immediately are the things that are sources of energy investment, okay? Because anything that you would be investing energy into in 2020 would be a source of difficulty, most likely. So you actually kind of need to reverse it a little bit moving into this year and think, okay, instead of this being so hard and so enduring, I need to give myself a round of applause. I need to congratulate myself for having been so devoted and so committed to something. I need to congratulate myself for thinking so deliberatively about who I am in context to, or in regards to, this investment of energy that I'm making. And even though I'm in a little bit of an identity crisis, even though I'm not positive what this all results in, I'm trying really hard and I'm not giving up. And that is like something that we have to be proud of, okay? To not have any difficulty right now, or to not have any concern over the future of, or any concern over the unknown territory of, would simply mean that one is probably not getting out of bed or something, okay? So it's like, to do anything right now, or to be moving into an ascended space right now, period, is something that would bring with it a bit of turmoil, just because we're kind of breaking that glass ceiling in a way. That's another thing about 2021, is like the shattering of many glass ceilings that will also be happening, and the recreation of lower glass ceilings than they were before. Both are possible, and both will probably happen in certain ways. Though before I trail off, it's like, if you feel that everything's fine right now, either you're like an extreme ascended master, or you've probably kind of closed down shop and you've probably kind of taken yourself out. Here's your call to action now, where it's time to open shop back up. And it's time to start to prosper more in life as well. So for business owners, for entrepreneurs, for people who are creating something of value for others, this is your time, okay? 2021 is going to redefine the game. It's going to introduce more value into everyone's lives. And it feels that everyone can be a part of it. It feels that there is space for everyone to create value for others. It feels like the sort of like, what do I want to say? The marketplace, or the value that can be introduced this year, is something that needs focus. So if you've got that great idea, if you've got that great blueprint, or that great, sort of enterprising nature about you, what an awesome year 2021 will be to let that give to others and give back to you. It's also a year of the establishment of passive income for many people. Again, Aquarius and Pisces moves into this energy of things having a life of their own outside of the human condition. So when it comes to economics, and when it comes to making sources of value in our lives, this year can start a process where we really don't have money problems anymore, if you would like to have that. And there are a lot of considerations with that too. Again, we don't want to be haphazard. All business owners know what it can be like to move too quickly, or to not have a good plan set out. We've got to be master planners, and that's what the 3-year period has given to all of us, is the new ability to strategize, the new ability to, through the school of hard knocks, know what and what not to do anymore. And combining all of this together, on one hand, these lessons from the School of Hard Knocks, and on the other hand, these incredible new ideas that seem to come from like the universe or something with this Aquarius energy. Who knows where it comes from, but it comes from somewhere awesome. Combining those things together is really the formula to success, is really the formula to thriving again, okay, or to creating a new source of value in your life. So one other thing that I want to talk about before getting into the sign-to-sign breakdown, there are a few more things I'm going to just bring up briefly. As I've taken a brief glance through the entire year of 2021, month by month, I've looked at the transits. Of course, I will be taking a more fine-tuned, focused approach as we move through the year of 2021 and making videos about specific transits. I do not want to say that things just look a lot easier, because I'm afraid that I'd be jinxing it. But knock on wood, the transits in general, there are some moments where this is not the case. In general, this looks like one of the more easy, more simple transitory years that we've had, I would say, since like the early 2000s. Okay, and of course it depends on your natal chart. Like there are certain people who are going to be having transits that totally contradict this message. But as it relates to the natural angles being made in the sky, aside from any natal considerations of individuals, this year is very mild. And mild is the word that comes to mind compared to past years. So especially if your natal chart kind of mimics this or mirrors this mildness, all right, what an incredible year this is for true progress in your life, true new progress. So I don't feel that there's anything stagnant about the energy in the sky right now. I don't feel that there's anything preventative, anything cautionary, anything problematic to a huge degree, anything that is going to derail purpose in your life. As this year is all about the forward momentum of individual purpose. That to me feels like the astrological theme of this year is purpose and momentum. And with that, I mean, there can be destructive things that start this year because of the mildness, because of the seemingly strong removal of most preventative measures for most people. It goes in a lot of different directions, so people with nasty agendas, people with not great intentions will also have perhaps a more mild time or an easier time of going about their goals as well. So that's something to consider. But, when it comes to collectives, but also for the individual, this is great. You can't have one without both. If prevention is wholesome. Prevention is holistic when it comes to astrological and universal energy. If one person is very prevented, everybody is kind of prevented, so working with the energy of prevention or guardedness or defensiveness is holistic. Same goes that with openness and allowance and, forward momentum. It's going to happen for everybody. So we have to, I think, mainly get out of a sort of a mean mindset where we want to see some people not do well, or we want to see, even if we don't agree with people's, goals or objectives, to want for someone else to be prevented is to want for yourself to be prevented also. We can understand the difference between good and bad. We can morally reconcile the understanding that certain people might have bad intentions. And we can rebuke that, I suppose, and we can understand that they should not be allowed to do evil things. So this is something also coming up this year, is what we consider good and bad, what we consider worth it, what we consider an appropriate means to an end is a large part of the energy of this year also. And that is going to come through collectives. Again, Aquarius is the sign of collectives and the sign of groups and networks and larger humanity's consciousness. So there are going to be a lot of considerations of how the individual relates to the group, of how is a good way for the individual to contribute to the group, and then how the group then uses the contributions for the whole. Okay. This is going to be a huge part of this year. So of course, yes, things relating to politics and all that, I don't really get into that here. So I'm not going to talk about specific things in that vein, but it's just noteworthy of saying that Aquarius is the political sign. So we have the political planets, Jupiter and Saturn, in the political sign of Aquarius. So there are going to be very strong ramifications in that vicinity, one way or another. And what we have to, I think, consider in relationship to that is how we as individuals create larger networks and create large. So social media comes up, just here on YouTube, like what we're partaking in right now is very much Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius. So many people all over the world coming together and forming bonds based over different ideas. This is Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius. And I would hope that this is a positive manifestation of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. Okay. Hit that like button if you think this is a positive manifestation of Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius. But as we start to do this on more levels and we start to combine ideas and concepts at a more visceral and collective level, we have to think about what it's really giving us and what we're giving it. What is this sort of symbiotic relationship that individuals are playing to the more macrocosmic unit, all right? These are things that, regardless of whether we're thinking consciously about them, we will be contributing momentum to them. That's the kind of dangerous thing about this year. Actually, if I could diagnose one dangerous, problematic theme about the year of 2021, it's that there is an unconscious symbiotic relationship between the individual and the collective, the micro and the macro, that is given a sort of unseen momentum through an inadvertent unwillingness to see the contribution. What am I contributing to society? What am I contributing to the larger aspects of life? And what does that contribution actually cause, and what momentum does it set? Things like social media, things like internet, things like networks, group mentalities, movements, things like patterns and the economics of societies. What is actually going on there? I don't think that many people have a clue. So that is kind of something that is going to be a huge deal right now. I think that most people don't even know what social media is. I mean, of course, people know what it is, but I think that most people don't know what actually goes on there. I think that most people have absolutely no clue what the internet is or how that works. I think that most people have absolutely no clue how certain societal entities are, or that they exist, period. There's a lot of, because we get into entities with Aquarius and Pisces, and we deal a lot more with entities than we know in life. Business entities, societal entities, spiritual and dimensional entities. These things play larger roles in our lives than we have any clue over. So that which is not seen but exists in life, okay? What binds people together? All of these things are areas for potential this year, but this year alone. This is the only time that these are areas for potential, because these things can also be done bad things with, all right? So do watch out for dogma and for being sold that, this is what this is. And if I speak charismatically about it, that's what it will be for everybody, period. Okay, watch out for that type of thing. And watch out for cultish mentality as well. That is something that we have to beware of with Neptune going into these last degrees of Pisces and Jupiter and Saturn conjunct together in the detached, unemotional and sort of anti-moralistic sign of Aquarius. But make no mistake, there is a very positive vibe to 2021. It's really offsetting what 2020 has been, and it's creating a brand new dynamic that we've not really seen before, something that we don't have a lot of context with. So moving into this year, do keep an eye out for what is uncontextual and what you're drawn to. It's probably a good territory, all right? And also, speaking a bit about the timing of 2021, each air season is going to be important. So Aquarius season, Gemini season, Libra season. There's a gigantic Aquarius stellium during Aquarius season that comes up with Jupiter and Saturn. Opportune time, okay? Also in Gemini season, there's a huge Gemini stellium, which will offset beautifully the Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius. All of the air seasons in 2021 are very important, and of course we'll talk more about it when we get there. I also saw that there was a very mild Scorpio season, which is going to be good for everybody. The last few Scorpio seasons have been really overbearing, in my opinion, in a transitory way. I looked at this Scorpio season in 2021. It's much more mild, and in general, things looked a lot more mild. So that's going to give us time to heal. That's going to give us time to get back to ourselves. It's going to give us maybe a little bit more feeling of options and feeling of opportunities. Though for people who are quite addicted to having a hard time, or for people who make things a lot harder than they have to be, this could also feel very frustrating to know that things never had to be so hard, or to know that it actually all ended up this way. Sometimes if you have a bit of a shall we say, like paranoid mentality about things. You kind of come to the event that you're worried about and have such an easy time with it that it's overwhelming to you to have been so unintuitive about how difficult things could be when they never ended up being that way. There's kind of that coming up this year too, where if we make things a lot harder than they have to be, we might see what a real hard situation is like. Or to give a perspective to what we are building up in our mind. Watch out for skyscrapers in the mind, building things up bigger than they need to be, making things that which they're not in the mind as compared to the physical reality. Again, that's kind of Aquarian, like that transference of and transmutation of different energies from the inside to the outside. And what I will speak on to conclude on the energy of 2021 before we get into the sign to sign, things are meant to be more mild and easy this year. We've been working for the last 3 years on what simplicity is in our life. What is simple? What is easy? Kind of thinking symbolically about, if this is really easy for me to do, maybe I need to focus more here. If this is really hard for me to do, if this is always challenging, always an uphill battle, maybe I'm not needing to focus there as much. We've been kind of connecting these thoughts with maybe larger signs or larger symbols to aligning our energy more so with like our soul's purpose, perhaps. And 2021 will be like the first officializing of this. Have we listened to those instincts? Have we thought very macrocosmically about how we line ourselves up energetically to what we're actually outputting with our intention? And someone who has drawn through these lessons, who has started to act based on the conclusions they've come to based on what's been easy and hard in their life and unnecessarily hard, because sometimes things that we're meant to do are not easy, but there's a sense of reward and there's a sense of I'm doing this for something bigger. So these difficult, enduring processes that I go through to get there are warranted. If you lack that feeling, it's probably not the right territory, okay? To not lose my train of thought though, things are meant to be easier and more simple in 2021. And please do not force yourself to keep outputting or to keep energy coming out in ways that do not feel right or ways that feel to compromise your future or compromise certain aspects that you now feel to be essential to your path. There are times, especially during Capricorn years like we had in 2020, where, we have certain reliances that we can't jeopardize just because they don't feel easy. So we have bills to pay, or we have, children to raise, or we have, family members to help, or some type of something like that probably came up for everybody in 2020. Like, even though I would like to just, go off and do this, dream that I have, am I going to allow my livelihood to collapse as a sort of gambling piece for that? And the answer for most of us was no in 2020. But what 2021 is going to do for most people, especially if you've got Aquarius in your chart or any like strong, specifically positive angle from this Jupiter-Saturn and Aquarius conjunction, what it's going to do is it's going to show you another way. It's going to show you, okay, maybe you had this job and maybe it was essential, and now you maybe want to do this field of study. Here are some awesome scholarships. Like, there are things like that that come up, or there are new intuitive ways to consolidate things and do more than one thing, but still be focusing your purpose in an easy way that doesn't overwhelm you. There are so many options that are coming up that it's almost like we have no excuse to keep making ourselves do things that aren't authentic, or to keep making ourselves do things that just are so hard. So try to, going into 2021 at the calendar new year, because I love the time of January to March of a year, because we have the calendar new year and then we have the end of the astrological year. So we've got this kind of leeway in the first 3 months of any year to understand what we want to be done with, what we don't want to be done with, to maybe sit and, strategize around these ideas and not necessarily implement, not necessarily act upon, but to think about, to consider. We have consideration in the first 3 months of 2021, but by late March of 2021, there really needs to be more of a commitment or more of a stronghold within what is easy, okay, and what has been working out, okay, like what's been working out. It's really not rocket science, actually. We kind of think in really hard ways about these things in life, because we have this like status quo traditional mentality, like, okay, you do this and you go to school here and you get this job here and you pay bills here and you eventually buy a house and you eventually, do this and you have kids and you have a family. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, that's really right for some people. For a lot of people, that's really right. And I do not want to condescend that way of life at all, because that is really what some people need. Though, in an Aquarian time, it really challenges the status quo and it really challenges traditions. It offsets the negative of traditions and it starts to show a new way, a new wave. All right. This is the year of the new wave, whatever that means to you. So with that in mind, we can like surf this wave or we can crash into it and be pushed to the bottom. All right. It's like the energy of a huge tidal wave. So keeping that in mind, it's so good to have an idea of momentum. It's so good to know how to swim, to know how to ride the wave in general. And on that note, everyone, if you want to find more information about thriving in 2021 specifically, again, I'm doing that exclusive video on Patreon, which will be linked below. But let's get into the sign to sign section of this video. I'm going to talk about all 12 signs in 2021 and the forecast for each sign generally. So let's get started. Okay, moving kind of quickly through the signs. For Aries in the year of 2021, very, very much easier, okay? And you got to be careful, when you're thinking about the future and you're thinking about the astrology of something like, okay, I know that this year is going to be easier, but that doesn't mean that we can like really just be careless with what we're doing. I feel like you've got to be very purposeful and deliberate with your actions, as I was kind of talking about in the beginning of the video. It really applies to Aries. The year of 2020 should have taught you a lot about management, organization, optimizing your time and routine. And then if you can apply that, the year of 2021 becomes very easy, okay? Jupiter and Saturn, which are in Aquarius, will make a sextile to whatever you have in Aries, which will mean that your philosophies, your luck, your natural ability to resolve things in life will come much more harmoniously and easily than it did in 2020, though you still have Chiron in your sign, and Pluto will still be making a square to Aries people whose Aries placements are in the last decan of Aries, so from around 20 to 29 degrees of Aries. So there, with Pluto and Chiron being the main hard angles for you in the year of 2021, depending on what degrees of Aries you have in your chart, there's going to be a sense of drastic transformation, drastic healing or wounding capability, depending on certain emotional events in your life. So emotional events are coming up in 2021, but it should be much less pressurized than 2020. And there should be this like new philosophy or this new ease in adapting or in knowing what your motivation behind certain goals is. It feels to me for Aries in 2020 to have been really erratic. Like, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? All over the place. Like, one day I really want to accomplish this goal. The next day I'm just kind of like, does this prevent me from doing what I actually want to do in the future? So partaking in a lot of things that were not harmonious with one another, very square 90-degree angle energy from 2020, which is changing in 2021 to seeing that, okay, now I understand what this is supposed to be. Now I understand, what this brand or business idea or field of study or industry is in correlation to what I want to do. So really aligning your purpose with your pioneering nature as an Aries and keeping an idea of symbolism in your life. So you've got Chiron and Pluto playing a big role, as we were talking about. So you can't really forget the larger symbolic theme of what you're going through. It's important to admire the transformation that you've been through, and it's important to make sure that you're not wounding aspects of yourself. So pay close attention to physical health, okay? Pay close attention to what actions you're taking in life, the hours that you're putting into things, and is that healing or wounding? Oftentimes with a Chiron conjunction, okay, especially Chiron in the same sign as the sun. Chiron is in Aries in 2021, as it has also been in 2020. There is a struggle to distinguish between what is a healing action and what is a wounding action. So we can maybe cut ourselves off at the knees and think that that was the right thing to do or the responsible thing to do. We can maybe allow ourselves to sleep a lot more or participate in a diet that's really unhealthy and think that it's the right thing to do because we're comforting ourselves. Watch out for things like that. You will understand in 2021 what is right for you. Okay. And that will harmoniously become clear to you at a philosophical level. But now you've got to implement it in 2021. And that's what decides whether or not this year becomes a lot easier, like it is likely to. Okay, let's talk about Taurus in the year of 2021. So, what am I feeling? For Taurus, things are a little bit more challenged, okay? Not in a bad way, but we do have the energy of a challenge coming in. And I love challenges. Who doesn't love a good challenge? I hope that you love a good challenge, Taurus, because this becomes a little bit tougher in 2021. So 2020 was actually a really, really positive energy for Taurus with all that earth energy. It probably really empowered you. It showed you your power. It showed you what you're capable of. It showed you some of the larger dreams and larger societal status-oriented features that you could reach for if you like. So by 2021, like January, February of 2021, you should really start to feel like you are more adequate. Okay, like you are... Okay, we've got to watch for ego here, but Taurus should feel like I can do anything. I can achieve any status or any feature of society that I want. And as we move into 2021, it's really important for you to adapt that mentality more so into a creative, innovative flair and focus a bit less on the status or the reputation aspect. So we worked a lot with reputation and identity in 2020, and that will continue for the next 3 years as Saturn and Jupiter coming together, regardless of what sign, but especially 11th house Aquarius energy, deals a lot with who am I in the world and all of that stuff. So that's going to get even stronger, but now it's going to move from the trine angle to the square angle. So fellow fixed air sign of Aquarius. On one hand, you're going to be able to solidify your purpose, your identity, and your reputation. But on the other hand, there's going to maybe be a feeling that, okay, whoa, this is not who I thought I would be. Is this person that I'm projecting, or is this reputation that I'm giving off, is this something that's actually me? Or is this maybe a little bit concocted? Watch out for concocted identities in 2021 for Taurus. Also, watch out for fakeness, okay? So Taurus is a sign that demands authenticity, and it's second house energy also. So, oftentimes there is an understanding, an intuitive understanding from Taurus about who this person needs me to be or who these people need me to be. And you can like fit that role pretty easily. And part of the karmic challenge in a Taurus's life is how can I always be this authentic identity that I know I am, and that still be applicable to others. That's going to be essential in 2021, okay? That's going to be so essential because your identity could take a weird shift in 2021, and it could be something that actually conflicts or contradicts what you're striving for in the long run. So in order to overcome that, I think that you just need to get a clear idea of what you are working for, how your current ideas contribute to that, and if there's something that's not matching up, don't be afraid to get more creative. Don't be afraid to just make your current output, because it feels like you have this power, really match up with what you are striving for. And that's just a creative solution right there. That it might not be something that just automatically happens. You might have to kind of work with the energy and challenge yourself, okay, in who you want to be. Also, this is kind of an odd psychic image that I'm getting for Taurus. And I don't consider this to be something physical, but I do see like... the image that I saw was actually like regurgitating or throwing something up. Okay. So there might be something that you've taken in, Taurus, that is going to leave you. Okay. There might be something that has come in and become such a deep ingrained part of your personality, and it's exiting. Okay. So on one hand, yes, any type of like difficult entity or spirit that you might have come into contact with will leave you, okay, now, and that's really good. Also, negative coping mechanisms, negative attachments to addictions, okay? So like bad addictions of any kind, especially psychological addictions relating to anything Aquarian. So like computer addictions. There are all kinds of addictions there that I'm not going to talk about on YouTube. But anything that relates to an addiction through a screen, or anything that relates to like addiction to like video games, or addiction to YouTube or whatever, addiction to social media, that will probably leave you, or needs to leave you, in 2021. So getting more physical with it, getting more grounded, getting more into natural rhythm versus technology is important for you, because the square to Taurus from Aquarius means that Taurus is not really very harmonious with the Aquarian technological, inanimate, networking, entity-based lifestyle. So change in lifestyle. Leaving a previous lifestyle behind is very possible. And with that, yeah, also keep your digestive health in mind. Do not eat old food. Do not eat anything that is impure seeming. Okay, keep very clear with that, because that was the image that I got, was throwing up for Taurus, but it did not actually seem like something that was like coming from an illness or a disease. It seemed like something that needed to happen, which is always what happens if you get like a food poisoning or something. It's because your body has to get rid of that, and it's without that process, it would be much more deadly. So do keep that in mind. If you feel discomfort, if you're like, oh my gosh, why are these things leaving me? Keep in mind that the universe has a similar cleansing mechanism that the body has. You know, sometimes we can't deliberately control that mechanism consciously. And we have to have that conscious control sometimes taken away in order for a much more deadly process to not take place, had our conscious mind been in control of it. So control dynamics, big thing for you guys this year. And being overruled perhaps by like the universe, or overruled by an autonomic type of system that actually has your best interest at heart. So interesting. But what's positive for Taurus is what we're going to also see in 2021 is a very interesting what do I want to call it? Lapse in conflict. I'm going to call it a lapse in conflict. We have this really neat transit, especially for Taurus people, where despite having this square from Jupiter and Saturn in Aquarius, the rest of the sky throughout the year really works well in tandem with you. So personal matters, generational issues also will kind of just start to complement you. So things should get a lot easier, okay? There's like this one challenge and this one conflict that you might deal with, and this one challenge relating to something you're holding close, needing to be left behind maybe. But other than that, I see like a lot of new styles and new perspectives and easy new beauty coming into your life also. So anyway, moving on. Gemini in 2021. So this is kind of like the year of a lifetime for Gemini. I don't see much of anything tough in your chart. I mean, some of you who are later Geminis getting that quincunx from Pluto, so 20 to 29 degrees of Gemini, that's a little bit like nails down a chalkboard, but it's also not that big of a deal. There's not really anything this year in 2021 that challenges you in the same way as 2020. So this looks like a year of potential. This looks like a year of creating foundations. This looks like a year also of getting windfall, abundance, and benevolence. 2020 and even 2019 were both very unfortunate for Gemini, it seems like, in a lot of the angles. And if you did okay during those years, you're going to really take that to a new level, I think. But even if you've had a hard time, even if there's been a rock bottom, it only goes like up from here. That's kind of how I feel for most Geminis. It only goes up from here. We are going to have an incredible Gemini season where so many people are going to be changing the game, totally reinvigorating their lives, totally just taking things at an innovative level to a new place. So definitely focus on innovation if you could. I do feel that everything changes in a way, specifically in the sense that your personal sense of conflict is much less, okay? You're getting better at something, you're progressing, you're learning a craft more. What a great time to start a new hobby or a new field of study, or launching a new product, or checking out a new industry, or just coasting, you know? It feels like Gemini almost has free reign. This sign has been so locked up over the last few years and so kind of navigating the maze. Basically, 2021 starts and you exit the maze. And yeah, there is this huge kind of open space in front of you now, which can be disorienting at first, but you can fill the space however you like. So it's kind of like creative control for you guys in 2021. You're supported by the Jupiter and Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. Also, by June, Jupiter will move up and enter into Pisces before it retrogrades back into Aquarius, which will square you, your fellow mutable sign. So that's why I'm saying there's a creative element to your year this year. What you have to do as you come out of this maze that you've been in for the last few years is I think that you have to kind of almost create a new maze. Maybe you are now a guiding figure for other people in mazes. I think that you have to create a new structure in your life. Or you have to allow old previous structures to dissolve, and watch out for, being in that open space and trying to navigate the open space as if it were a maze. We get a kind of muscle memory where if you've been in a maze for a long time, figuratively, even when you come out of the maze, you're still trying to navigate the maze. So keep that in mind. That's the only area I feel of error for Gemini, is just getting used to having things hard and not really allowing things to then be easy afterward. Really try to simplify things, okay? So you come up against a issue of, I don't know, work or career or love or whatever. Try to just am I making this too complicated? Am I making this more of a maze than it has to be? For Gemini and Sagittarius, both this axis, it really has to watch out for this, as the last few years had very discordant transits for this axis, okay? Where it was a maze and there were a lot of weird existential themes that were difficult to interpret. And that's not the case anymore in 2021. Watch out for making it continue to be the case, because it's now your context. So redefining your context, getting a bit uncontextual with things is very good for Gemini in 2021. New relationships, and when I say new relationships, I don't just mean a new romantic relationship. I mean maybe new relationships that defy the traditional context of relationships. So, new types of business networks that become closer friends or something. There is something to say about mixing business and pleasure. I feel that really coming up for Gemini, where all these lines get a lot more blurry, but it seems to also work. But watch out for that also. Watch out for being too informal, okay? For treating people who might require a bit more formality very informally, and basically also then losing the professional context of a relationship. That would be really easy. And it seems like you actually have to offset this new territory with, yes, the innovation of relationships. So maybe there are new kinds of relationships that are coming into your life that you've never had before, but also offset it a little bit. So then your professional relationships, it's maybe make them even more professional, just to offset this newfound interesting dynamic that you are having with other humans. So new dynamics with other humans is very much a part of your 2021. And I'm talking, and when I say this, I don't just mean in kind of a kitschy way, oh wow, I finally, experienced a friendship in a close way that I never have before. I mean, that could happen too, but what I really mean is humans interacting in ways that humans have never interacted before, and discovering maybe a type of relationship that has not really been done before. So when we think of relationships, we have love relationships, professional relationships, stuff like that. It feels like Gemini and all of the air signs to a degree are innovating new types of relationships. So I would love to hear what you guys think about that. If you have already had any experience there, comment below, let me know, because that's a really cool thing coming up. But it is a very relationship oriented year for you. Humans, okay? Watch out for getting too focused on automation. So only being around devices, only being around screens. All the air signs are struggling with this year, where maybe they only ever operate through social media. I mean, we've had all of the health issues of 2020, where we all maybe spend a bit more time in solitude. And maybe we've really replaced real interaction with technology. The air signs may even go a bit further with this, so watch out for that. The human brain does actually need interaction with other humans. It's kind of like getting food and water and shelter and stuff, all these necessary parts of life. We forget that social interaction is also that, and electric technologies are not actually that. It's an illusion of that. So watch out for being too distant from other people, and these new relationships seem really cool. So moving on, Cancer in the year of 2021. Okay, Cancers, you're one of the hot topic signs who is having a little bit of a different time than everybody else. The energy is not the easiest to articulate because nothing bad. Don't worry. Like, it's a lot easier than 2020. Like, you're coming out of 2020, Cancer, and I want to just really break this down. Like, you had Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto opposite you, okay, on your axis. That is some heavy stuff. This axis of Cancer and Capricorn had more activation in the year of 2020 than anybody who is outside of those signs can really comprehend. And most of them had to really process that on their own or in their own mind. And it was hard for other people to really relate to what was going on to them. So right into 2021, that is no longer the case. And maybe you now have a great confidant or a great ability to communicate what's going on with you, or a great acceptance of the changes that are coming on. You know, having had a business that was really difficult to deal with and kind of accepting now, okay, maybe there's a different path. Having had a relationship that was really irreconcilable and kind of accepting now, okay, that is not a part of my path anymore. There's something about Cancer that really has to get into 2021 and have a keen awareness of what is and is not a part of their path anymore. This isn't just external things like relationships or career. This is also coping mechanisms and the way that we think about other people, or the things that keep us up at night, especially, actually. So things that bother you, things that are of little detail. This is a weird thing that actually started happening to Cancer at around the time of 2015 or 16, where things of no consequence became the focus. Okay, things of no consequence, and this is like bridging on a weird place, consciously, psychologically, whatever we want to say. This is bridging on tough territory where things that actually need focus and attention and things that you actually need to do fall to the wayside of a type of worrisome pattern of trying to build up details which have slight significance, and they eclipse things that have real significance. So that's changing immediately as you go into 2021, and it's being challenged. It's going to be brought up. It's going to get bigger than it's ever been. And basically with the challenge of you not needing to make things which are so small, so big. The size of things in your life, the scale of your emotional situations as compared to the actual path that you're walking, there's going to be no room for worrying about non-issues. All right. This is kind of crazy. And me also, I've got like a lot of Cancer and fourth house energy in my own chart, and I kind of see this, and I didn't see this coming before I started talking about this and meditating on this. Actually, I thought that this would just kind of slip away, but actually it's not really going to slip away so much as you have to slip away from it. You have to walk away from this tendency, this dynamic of losing sleep over inconsequential things, or really pinpointing aspects of another person's personality that are also inconsequential. The focus is not really in the right place, I feel, for most Cancers right now. And some of you have totally overcome this, and some of us are also in the process of overcoming this, because everything changes, all right, in 2021. And Cancer can actually have the hardest time of any of the signs this year if during this time of everything changing, it can't get up to speed with things. It still is focusing those things from like 2018, or still is focusing those things from like 10 years ago, and the aspects of the people around them that have no significance to their own path, while everything is changing, basically forcing things not to change when they are changing around you. This is like the energy of becoming irrelevant. This is the energy of becoming like a crazy cat lady. You know, you got to watch out for it. So Cancer, why this is the case is Jupiter and Saturn conjuncting in the new wave 0 degree of Aquarius creates a direct quincunx to you. And this is very much preferable to the opposition you had of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, but it is more disempowering. So the opposition of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto in 2020 was actually a very empowering thing for Cancer, but it was also extremely consequential. It's like the idea of like, with this power also comes, it's like the energy of the devil card in tarot. With this power also comes like chains, all right? That dynamic is totally changing into 2021, but what often happens with humans is like a dynamic changes or an energy changes and they aren't up to speed with it and they're still kind of in that old way of being. And that's what Aquarius has no patience for. And this is why Aquarius and Cancer are a quincunx. A quincunx in astrology is the most friction, conflict-oriented angle because there's no middle ground. There's no common ground between the signs of Cancer and Aquarius. They have nothing in common. So whatever, because everybody goes through this at some point in time in their life where there's a transiting quincunx. The key to thriving, because it is possible with a transiting quincunx, is to basically imagine you're going to a country and you're going to a foreign land of which the culture is completely different to your own. Let's just make a hypothetical situation. So, as one maybe prepares to go on, I don't know, some type of charity organization trip to a war-torn country, it would be odd in this war-torn country for the charity worker to approach one of the locals and ask them where the nearest Starbucks is. That's kind of what Cancer will do in a very strong Aquarian transit, is it will not kind of know why, like what role it's really in. You know, it hypothetically or hyperbolically, it will basically approach the local and ask for the nearest Starbucks when there are no Starbuckses. When there are no Starbucks in this region of the world. You know, it's like if we're here to get Starbucks, maybe it would be better to be, you know, in some urban sprawl somewhere, you know. So that's also an important thought, is like, am I in the right place as a Cancer? Am I like, are my needs or my wants directly connected to the location that I'm in, or connected to all of that, you know? And who am I asking for what? And does that really make sense? Am I asking the right people for things? Does it make sense to go up and ask this person about this or that? And then relationships come to mind. Also, are you in a relationship with someone where there's really no common ground? Are you in a relationship with someone who is so different and so out of your own context, or out of your age demographic, or out of your, you know, your just totally strange? That's really common during a Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius, like relationships, whether they're like romantic or professional or whatever, that are like very different, like two different, very different types of people coming together. And that's a positive. But Cancer has to be prepared to take these things into account, and to, if they interact, or if Cancer wants to pursue these goals or these relationships or these connective points, basically Cancer has to be prepared to walk away from the old traditional comfort and not look back. All right. There's no really going back at this point in time for many Cancers with the decisions that they're making. So those people from the past who maybe, like those relationships from the past, or all those things from the past with Cancer. Cancer is the sign that rules the past. As you cross this cusp into 2021 and getting into this Aquarian time, there are no more opportunities to change things, or to redo, or to revise, or to affect the past. Now things are done, and the people in front of you are now the people there. And there's no going back. All right. So that's what Cancer has to understand. It's just really important that you're not bargaining with a chip you don't have, thinking that people from the past who have maybe been exchanged for the current people now in the present would somehow be there at this point in time, would not be something to rely on. Okay. And that's actually pretty cool, Cancers, where you start to be less weighed down by your past, and you start to actually have present and future opportunities as a Cancer. That can kind of freak out the Cancer. They can kind of withdraw and go into the shell, you know, oh my gosh, what do I do? And they're like, and again, this is like where Cancer actually doesn't work too great with the energy ahead of them, because now is not the time to withdraw and go into the past. Now is the time to explore the new horizon. Now is the time to explore. Okay, and to take in the context of this new terrain or this new exploration and understand what surrounds it, to understand the setting of this new frontier that you're on. It's like a new frontier for Cancer. And yeah, in this new frontier, there's probably no Starbucks, so don't go asking people in the new frontier where the nearest Starbucks is, because it makes you seem out of touch with the new frontier. Lots of hypotheticals coming together. Very hypothetical year for you two. Very in the mind. Very much like trying to piece things together. Watch out for this also about trying to piece things together in dimensions or realities that are not real, okay? That feels really strong for you. This is about a real year. This is about innovating your life. This is about getting stronger. This is about not making those same mistakes again. This is about also not allowing destructive things to continue. Okay, Cancer, that's really important. You can get very detached with Aquarian energy about that which is destructive in your life. So relationships that are just repeating stories from the past, relationships that are just enabling addictions or narcissistic complexes, either way, or toxic control dynamics, don't continue those patterns because they take your potential away. That has to be seen and accepted for a Cancer right now in order to even begin to latch onto the Aquarian energy. Again, this is not really Cancer's territory, you know, issues with narcissism, issues with toxic relationship dynamics, but it has been since about 2016. That energy is changing, Cancer. So this is actually a window and a doorway for you to get out of this cycle of toxic, narcissistic, traumatic, existential relationship dynamics and start to focus on something a little bit more fun. Aquarius is about fun. It's about humor. Why not participate in that? That is your challenge this year, is to participate in the fun and humorous and see this big open door to get out of this like existential toxic cycle and take it. And anybody kind of holding space and saying, no, just stay here. I need you. It's codependent. Without you, I can't exercise all this narcissistic, you know, stuff. And then you're like, oh yeah, well that does really, I've got a lot of spare time and I don't really like having spare time to myself. So I'm just going to stay here and participate in that. Try to watch out for that. Try to take this great opportunity here and now to get a lot better in life. Okay. That said, before I conclude for you guys, it might kind of feel like you're in like the future, or there, it's kind of like culture shock, okay, for you in 2021. Try to keep comforting things around you nonetheless. So that beautiful scrapbook, that beautiful journal, that wonderful blanket, all of that stuff is really good. And that instead of these memories or these people of the past or anything like that, none of that is really good unless it can be new and very of the new world, I guess. I don't know. There has to be something that has changed about people of the past, and they have to kind of present this type of, I don't know, new magic to you in order for that to be right. But you've had the time for the old and traditional in the last 3 years, and that stuff should have been put in order. And now it's time for some new experiences, Cancer, so congratulations on that. Okay, Leos, in the year of 2021, wow, some of the most incredible energy coming up. So this is a crowning year for Leo. In fact, the next 3 years are a crowning year. Depending on what degree your Leo placements are at, you can look at when Jupiter and especially Saturn will exactly oppose those, and that would be a crowning time for you. So the last few years for Leo have not been pretty. For this whole entire section of the zodiac, Gemini, Cancer, and Leo, the last few years, the transits have been really tough. In fact, more than any other sign, I had a lot of Leos come to me over the last year with a lot of complaints about the messages that I had for Leo, and I wasn't able to respond to all of those, but it gets a lot better now. And the ones that I was able to respond to, I said, you know, this is just life. There are times where we have conflicting transits, and there are times where we have crowning transits. And I reassured those people that 2021 was going to be a crowning time once they got the opposition. However, kind of like Cancer in the last few years, the opposition of Saturn or Jupiter can also bring with it a lot of unions and bonds and connective ideas that can be heavy. Though this axis is a little bit different. The axis of Leo and Aquarius is much more about personal power and energy and motivation. Okay, whereas Cancer and Capricorn is much more about the material, physical world. So I want to reassure you, Leos, that things will automatically get a lot easier, but also it's kind of hard for a fixed sign to adjust so quickly. There's going to be a demand throughout 2021 for adjustment or for a new schedule, a new routine, a new field of study, a new industry, a new way of exercising formalities. So let's think of a crowning. So you are the archetype of like the king or the queen or the noble person, which comes with like this crowning. And what is a part of a lot of Leo's lives are lots of formalities like that. So if you think of people who are like, I guess, kings or queens, it looks really fun, but there are a lot of like formalities and hassles to it. So keep in mind formalities and hassles. That would be something that would bridge you from the last year to this year, where maybe there's like a lot of like papers to get in order. There's a lot of formalities to adhere to. Watch out for critics or critical insights, or being very inquisitive about things, also being demanding. That could be something tough because you're going to be so empowered with this Aquarius opposition. Though I will say that people who really wield that power in a very demanding way are very quickly pushed down. All right, Aquarius does not like... Within an opposition, there's always a bit of discontent also. So Leo and Aquarius don't really like each other, though they are the same axis, but they have a lot in common. So Leo doesn't really love the detached way that Aquarius goes about navigating. Aquarius doesn't like the very hierarchical and mighty lion energy of Leo as well. Yet Leo is the one who wears the crown, and Aquarius is the one who places the crown on one's head. So if you think back to history in like great monarchies of civilization, the only thing that validates a crown is like the church or religious organization. So if Aquarius is like that, Aquarius is like the organization, the movement, the religious grouping that makes a king's reign legitimate. So there's something about becoming legitimate in the year of 2021 through 2023, actually, for Leo, legitimizing what it is that you have in your life and doing that in the best way possible. And maybe also something about politics also. When I say politics, I mean like the dynamics of people in your life, the personal politics in your life. Watch out for getting too focused on that. That's an area for devastation for Leo if they get too involved. It's like you have to really make sure that you're legitimizing yourself through integrity-based building, okay? So through contributions, through aid, through warming up a dynamic between other people. It's going to get more worldly for you, okay? And that can be like good and bad. It depends on the Leo. But it is going to really crown you, and it's going to give you more of a spotlight. It feels that you become more public. It feels that you become more connected to group endeavors or to projects or to teamwork, okay? Great, wonderful opportunity for Leo to start a business or to start a company or to also finish a degree plan or become involved in some type of organization. That seems to be a good territory, especially if it's altruistic, okay? And not altruistic for the ego sense. A lot of times charities and nonprofits are only that to look that way. This is about also finding substance for Leo. So beware of involving yourself in things just because of how it looks. You've got to actually have a nice soul connection to do that. And I'm talking to like one group of Leos here, and I'm going to kind of split off into another group because this is sort of for the Leos who are like striving in public sense. If you're a Leo rising, Saturn and Jupiter are coming into your 7th house, which is the first time they will have been above the horizon in about 15 years, Saturn at least. So while Saturn is under the horizon, it's about cocoon. It's about being sort of in private. And then when Saturn goes above the horizon, it's about more of a public connection. So it's going to be an aspect of many Leo's life that they become a little bit more publicly involved. Maybe it's a social media rebranding. Maybe it's a new company. Maybe there's so many like ambitious doors that are like right in front of Leo, and it's like, wow, what will you choose? You have like a lot of choices there. But for Leos who maybe aren't Leo rising or aren't having that same thing, at a spiritual level, this year is going to be more about still legitimacy. Like, what am I really striving for? What is my motivation really? Again, it's very abstract stuff coming in for you. It doesn't really matter that much what you're physically doing. What matters is the abstract idea that you have of yourself, or the abstract journey that is taking place alongside of it. Does that feel authentic? Does that feel like it supports the identity that you have in the long run? These are all good things to be thinking about. And it's interesting to think about the relationship between Jupiter and Saturn this year, because Jupiter is going to slingshot. It's going to move so fast through Aquarius that by June of 2021, it's already in Pisces. So all Leos, or regardless of what degree your Leo placements are at, are going to have a Jupiter opposition within the first 6 months of the year. And of course, it's going to then retrograde back into Aquarius and, stay put there for a while. But there's something for every Leo in 2021, and it's something great. Jupiter scatters candy. Jupiter oppositions are, you got to watch out for indulgences also. Like Jupiter oppositions, especially if you're like a Leo rising, it can cause like weight gain. It can cause overindulgent, over lavish, over luxurious things. Sun in Leos also, maybe even more than Leo risings. The Jupiter opposite Sun, it can be like giving you a luxury, giving you a gift, giving you a lot more abundance. So you got to watch out for over consuming or overeating, overspending. There's going to be a lot of potential for that, especially, Jupiter has had such a rough time in Capricorn this year, as it's been like concentrated by Saturn and Pluto to like the 1000th degree in Capricorn, which is its debilitated sign, and it loves Aquarius. Jupiter absolutely loves Aquarius as a sign because it's like its first breath of air after the very heavy, like burying alive feeling of Jupiter in Capricorn. So with that, you might have an appetite. Watch out for the appetite. And I'm not just talking food here. I'm talking about like the appetite for power, the appetite for that job. I want this. I want that. I want this. I will have that. It's a little bit like insatiable, okay? That's the negative of 2021. The positive of 2021 is that you'll breathe a lot better. You'll have a lot more opportunities, probably make a lot more money and have like nicer things around you. So a nicer home, a nicer type of food, a nicer health environment also. Also a good reputation, perhaps, with it being in the 7th house, a new marriage for some Leos, new relationships of all kinds, right people in right place, networks getting stronger, like all of that's possible and almost inevitable for Leos. But it's a lot to wield, okay? And it's something that you guys are going to kind of like, it's going to suddenly come out of nowhere and kind of be there for you. And over these last few years of maybe just keeping simple, having that cup of tea, doing that job here and there, like it can be like a lot to process at once. So try to keep your mind as healthy as possible. Rested minds are so important for everyone in 2021. The brain is going to be working more with the 11th house energy. The electric Uranian Aquarian energy requires more energy. So no such thing as too much sleep for you guys. No such thing as too much nutrients, really. To a degree. Try to not eat fast. Maybe make a goal to not eat any fast food for the entire year, to maybe not drink sodas for the entire year, and to maybe even take that a little bit further and like no fried food for the entire year. Of course, I'm not an advisor, and all of these videos are for entertainment purposes only, as I am not a dietitian, but definitely watch out for the sugar, okay? That's just coming up for you all. But a beautiful, sweet, sweet year for you nonetheless. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Virgo, welcome. 2021 year ahead. So, off the charts. First of all, the energy is like off the charts, and it's going to take a little bit of getting used to this new Aquarian energy before you go too crazy with things. Kind of like Cancer. You might want to listen to Cancer's version. This is dealing with a quincunx angle. I think quincunxes are my favorite thing to talk about in astrology. I'm always like diving deep with those. But quincunxes are like unknown territory, new frontiers. It can be hard to find a middle ground. It can be hard to really connect the dots and understand how every aspect of your life is tying together. That's one thing that I would pinpoint as an issue, is a lack of cohesion or a lack of maybe organization at this point in time, which is like pretty crazy for a Virgo. Like that can be pretty tough. So definitely take a look at administrative, that's coming to in the administrative aspects of your life. So if you're like a business owner, or if you're a parent, or if you're in control of a lot of things, look at how you're administrating, look at what you are getting in return for what you're doing, and see if there isn't maybe a better way to budget or to get things together in a more creative and Uranian way. So why Virgo and Aquarius is a difficult angle is because Virgo can sometimes struggle with Uranus energy, that really scrambling, scattering, frenetic energy. But actually, you're the master of that, as your natal ruler is Mercury, which is the lower octave of Uranus. So Virgo has much more capability with this frenetic energy than it knows. But for both of the Mercury signs in this Aquarian year, so you and Gemini, you do have to watch out for getting like off the charts or over the top with feelings or motivation, or like feeling manic, or feeling like a buzzing feeling. If you're feeling that, I would look at what you're taking in, like caffeine and any type of chemical effect that your body is having needs to be like really strongly observed, because your decision making is paramount this year, and I guess I would say the philosophies that you create around what you do and your purpose for doing what you do, those things need to get more solid, actually, more fixed. Again, Aquarius is a fixed sign. Jupiter and Saturn are the philosophical law signs also. So making the laws of your own life, the philosophies of your own life, what you do and don't do as a person, what you participate in, what you don't participate in. Those things for Virgo need a huge re-examining, I think, right in the beginning of this year. And then you can very easily start to reap the benefits of this transit. You can very easily start to have more material success in life, more creative material success. You can also innovate. So I see a lot of Virgos maybe making new patents or having entrepreneurial success if they can balance the organization and the practical and the innovative, all of those things coming together as like a sort of a triad of philosophical foundation. So foundations become very different for you also this year. We learned so much about foundations over the last few years, having Saturn in Capricorn, and hopefully those foundations are set and you can kind of like blast off and take these things to the next level. But watch out for like a feverish wanting, or forgetting the formality of something because of the excitement, because I'm feeling that things actually become ecstatic, especially when Jupiter hits Pisces in June of 2021. It's going to get into the early degrees of Pisces, which is your axis, and then it's going to retrograde back into Aquarius. And that's going to be really interesting for your creative ability, and also for your luck. So better luck starting in the summer of 2021. But then if you make too many crazy decisions, it can feel undercooked because Jupiter then goes back into Aquarius. So keep that in mind. You might move too fast through 2021. You might try to do too much. You might try to create too much. So I think I would advise for most Virgos a bit of slower, easier time. Like maybe this needs to be a little bit easier. Anybody with like major sixth house energy needs a bit of a break after 2020. So try to maybe, you're going to the mirror, you've got all the jewelry on, it's time to maybe remove one piece instead of adding more. Okay, Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn making a conflicting angle to Virgo energy. Watch out for overdoing, watch out for signing up for too much. Some things need to be taken off the plate, I think, for most Virgos. And then as you do that, you're going to have so much more energy, and you're going to see how you kind of wield a bit more free space and free time. So that will be an important part of this year as well. But overall, easier than 2020. For most of everybody, the year of 2021 is easier than 2020. Just getting that debilitated Capricorn stellium out of the way, it's just a lot more natural, and there's, as I was talking about with the Aquarius energy, you can now more easily transfer things in your life. So pulling energy out of one place and putting it into another. I think this would be a great time for a Virgo to like change career, or to change industry, or to also start seeing different types of people for relationships. So maybe you've always dated that, like, I don't know, random example, like you've always dated the corporate person, and then you've always dated the entrepreneur or whatever, and now maybe you stop that and now you're maybe dating a more spiritual type of person, or there seems to be a change in the type of people that you are in, the type of crowds, the type of spaces, the type of people, and this can be like good or bad. So it's not a guarantee for good. So maybe that needs a little bit of conscious attention to what are the types of people that I'm allowing myself to be around. Easy it would be for Virgo to like accidentally be involved with like criminals or accidentally be involved with people who don't have good intentions. Keep that in check. All right, really watch out for that because, and again, it's not really going to be, the wool is not going to be pulled over your eyes. You're not going to be tricked into it. It would be very clear. So watch out for the wrong types of people, and play up the successful people, because it feels like it really rubs off on you who you're around right now. So anyway, moving on, let's talk about Libra in the year of 2021. Libras, I'm absolutely in love with the energy that I feel for you. You're probably the most blessed sign naturally in the year of 2021. You and Gemini, okay? The two other air signs other than Aquarius really have a nice trine from Jupiter and Saturn, which makes that huge, rare energy come into your auric field in a natural and harmonious way. So you can really wield this energy with precision, with strategy, with wholesomeness. And that seems to be the best way to go about things the best way to go about things in 2021 for Libra is with those three things in mind. You know, the strategy that you're taking, the amount of wholesomeness in a pursuit, the level-headedness that it really takes to have success in anything. This year will actually help you to detach a little bit. So Libra became a little bit more of an attached sign ever since Saturn was in your sign about almost 10 years ago now. So now you are learning what it means to not be so attached to certain things. And as you learn that, you get more from those things. So treating certain endeavors not with carelessness, not with negligence, but with less energy invested, and the energy that is invested is then more strategic and more purposeful and deliberate, and you have like the recipe for magic, or you have the recipe for an incredible adventure or exploration or level up. So Libra really levels up in the year of 2021. The Chiron and Pluto are playing a weird role for all of the cardinal signs, all right? So you're not quite out of the woods when it comes to heavy energy. Nobody really is, but the cardinal signs probably have a little bit more karmic work to do this year, where as you see that things really lighten up, and as you're learning so much more about detachment, and as you're kind of like dancing more with the natural rhythm of your experience, what's happening is you are contributing to something much bigger, or you're contributing with Chiron being in your opposite sign and Pluto being in your fellow cardinal sign of Capricorn in the very last degrees. You're contributing to some type of larger conflict with other people. I've got to break this down a little bit. It's not that you're contributing to conflict in your life, but as maybe other people see you living a very different type of lifestyle, or see you working with energy in a very different way, there can be like jealousy, for example, in 2021. There can be animosity. There can be weird mind games also, not just for you, but for all the cardinal signs. And that's why this detachment is so good. That's why Libra has to be an expert, level-headed, detached person, because you want to really watch out for getting attached to the needs of other people, or getting attached to the things that are out of your control. So and Scorpio is also going to be going through this a little bit too. I'm just feeling this in this section of the zodiac. So Libra, Scorpio, and Sag. Got to really watch out for worrying about things that are out of your control. Detachment is key, okay? While also being very purposeful and deliberate in what you do put your energy into, so that there's no room for error, or that there's very little room for error. And then the rest is kind of in like the hands of God, or the hands of the universe. Something else really important for Libra is spirituality and deity, actually, I'm feeling. For these three signs, Libra, Scorpio, and Sag, it's like you need to really trust, let go and let God type of thing, you know? As so many people say, it's great to also not fall back too much on that, where you're doing like things really sloppily and being like, let go and let God. It's that middle ground, you know, again, purposeful, deliberate, strategic, level-headed, Queen of Swords, King of Swords energy. Yet also, once we've done it, once it's done, we're not going to lay in bed and lose sleep all night over the choices we've made. Okay, That's the key to thriving for you in this year of 2021, is that deliberate action followed by detachment. Okay, this can also be dangerous. I wouldn't advise this for every sign. It seems like Libra understands it, but for some people that could be like verging in the territory of sort of repressing the fact that they're putting their energy out in the wrong way, and then just taking not a personal point in that, or not taking a personal role in making their life better. So if something feels lacking, or if it feels that you're contributing or creating things that are not giving back to you, that's not really strategic. That's not really deliberate or purposeful. Okay, it's a very conditional year for Libra. It's a very conditional year for this section of the zodiac, where it's all in your hands. All of the ingredients, it feels, are at your disposal, and you're going to have a little bit more luck than some of the other signs when it comes to mixing those ingredients together. I talked about how the year of 2021 is like recipes, like we're putting all these things that we've gotten together and having an alchemical result. So purpose, deliberate, and if it doesn't taste good, move on. It's very common sense for you that kind of gets you through. And without further ado, thank you, Libra. What a beautiful, wonderful year altogether. Let's move on. Okay, Scorpios, year of 2021. Really neat, kind of a big change though. Unknown territory, new frontier. As we've been speaking about in this video, it is that way for you. And you are a fixed sign, so as much as you do like changes and transformations, sometimes there is a bit of a struggle with new frontiers. I am first and foremost feeling a big change in relationship with time, and in the relationship with your daily routine. This should have already been taking place throughout 2020. I will prepare you that you're moving from the energy with Jupiter and Saturn at a sextile to your Scorpio placements, and that's going to be moving into a square with Aquarius. And this has to be done or experienced with a bit of like care and caution, because the energy is not quite so safe. And that's in Scorpio. I hear all the Scorpios in the audience be like, oh my gosh, what's going on? Because I've been so worried and felt so unsafe for such a long time. Yeah, Scorpio, that's the thing. The last 3 years were kind of like infallible for you. With Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto in Capricorn, this is one of the most like protective energies for a Scorpio. Like you're literally so protected over the last few years. So I think if the last few years felt risky, or if you were having some struggles, it's really important to come to the cusp of this transit and see if any of that really panned out. Like in 2018, I was so worried that I was actually not going to be able to make enough money or have enough this or that to get through. And now you need to come back to that and see if that was really the case. Were those fears that I had actually relevant? And were any of the like paranoid mindsets that I might now see to be paranoia now not actually paranoia? So coming into a realization that it's time to be a bit more trusting, okay, of your own energy outputs, that it's time to trust that the universe will react to your lack of control favorably. So this cusp between Capricorn and Aquarius of Jupiter and Saturn deals mostly with control for Scorpios. So the main key to getting through this year without feeling more conflict is to detach a little bit from control mentality and understanding that you cannot really control anybody else, okay? You cannot control the actions of another person. All you can control is your own actions. So are those in the right place to make you feel trustworthy of your path? That's really the most important thing this year, because you can save yourself so much headache and so much like fast heartbeat and stress response by accepting that control is quite finite now, and you can't change certain things that are going on. You can only ride the wave. And you should be quite skillful at that. Again, you're a water sign. So we've got this new wave, Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, and it's a big wave, and it's coming right at us. And we can ride this wave, or we can be pushed to the bottom really easily too. So Scorpio is one of those fixed signs that will stand its ground and be quite stubborn. So issues of stubborn mentality will be a detriment for you. You do have to have a bit of adaptation this year, but also you get a new type of security also. So the cardinal sign of Capricorn, while it did protect you, it made you a little bit too forward thinking or too future oriented. And that's going to change a little bit now. You're going to start to feel a little bit more comfortable in 2021 with where you are. And you're going to feel a little bit more like you are actually in control and like you are actually protected. But the thing is when it really comes down to it, you are more protected over the last few years than you are now. But you have to really look at the psychological change and why that happened and see that it was under your control the entire time. I know it's kind of like a weird mind maze when it comes to control and stubbornness for Scorpio right now. I also feel that the Aquarius energy for Scorpio is meant to be really purifying, and it's meant to streamline and make more tranquil your immediate environment. So cleaner surroundings perhaps are great. Also a cleaner body or cleaner internal system. So yeah, detoxes, cleanses, definitely. Better diets. No, I think it was it in Leo's reading? Yeah, it was in Leo's reading for 2021, I think, also that I was saying maybe challenge yourself to do like no fast food in 2021, or, like no sodas or no fried food or something. Any type of food that doesn't feel clean, or any type of also area to live in or home to live in that doesn't feel clean is a pretty big issue for Scorpio, and should already be quite resolved over the last few years. But something about cleanliness, and as Aquarius is the water bearer, so it's also purifying and a cleaning energy. It cleanses and purifies and re-energizes the water, and you're a water sign. So I would say all the water signs are getting a little bit of a filtering or a purification right now, which is beautiful. Okay. And if you can really meet that halfway, you can have incredible results with health or with the feeling that you have when you're idling. So another thing that can happen with the Aquarius Scorpio square is anxiety. Okay. I don't know if any of you remember when Neptune was in Aquarius, which would have been, gosh, I can't remember the exact years, but pretty much all of the early 2000s up till around, I think 2012 or 13, I think it was. If you can remember that period of time and the anxiety that you may have had during that time, that some people may have had, will be a good space to remember the potential that this square can create. Of course, these are very different planets that are in Aquarius, but you've always got to watch out for that. That square can create anxiety, also chemical imbalances, or, I mean, that's more of a Neptune territory, but I'm just remembering back to when the last time we had this square in transiting planets with an outer planet, and that was then. So keep a mind of, even if you're thinking about detoxes, if you're thinking about medicinal interventions, watch out for that. Okay, you got to be easy with it. This was actually better over the last few years, but it seems to still be a part of the Scorpio experience for the next few years also. What else do I want to talk about for Scorpio? Great new ideas. So sudden aha moments, revelations, epiphanies, especially changes in philosophy, changes in lifestyle, changes in, your relationship to the material world, the status quo, things like that. You can sort of become a bit of a mad scientist with things of those nature. So finally understanding or coming past a poverty consciousness. There is something about poverty, okay, with this transit for you. So healing from poverty consciousness, healing from a scarcity mentality. This isn't just money. This is like again, going back to the feeling of something bad happening or a sense of impending doom. That is also a form of poverty consciousness, that you're not like protected enough or haven't done things in the right way to have a security about you. So keep that in mind. And is everything maybe kind of relating back to a fear of poverty? Keep in mind ineffectualness. So really being able to realize where you are ineffectual or where there's a dull note. That's really important this year, and to act based on that. Okay. And unequipped scenarios I have written down for you also. So not having the proper equipment or not having the proper tools or proper things in your immediate environment to sustain you. That's also not good this year. Aquarius is a technological sign. So, for example, if you've got maybe really slow technology, or you, I don't know, your car is in really bad shape, keep that in mind. That's something that will need sprucing up this year probably. any feeling of like, I don't have the right blank to do this. I don't have the right car to be able to go on, weekend trips. It's too old. It can't, drive long distances. I'm afraid it'll break down. Anything that you're worried will like break down or stop. Don't worry about replacing that this year. That should be really a lot easier than you think. Because again, here we are back in poverty consciousness again. Like, I can't afford a new car. I'm just going to have this old broken down thing. Because I am impoverished, okay? Like attracts like. The thoughts that we put out have results. So it's just food for thought. The last thing that I'll say is about if you could see maybe like 5 or 6 years ago and remember the person that you were 5 or 6 years ago, would you be okay with where you are now 5 or 6 years ago? Would this feel like an accomplishment? Would this feel like a good progression? The answers to what you need to do this year completely lie within that train of thought. And if you're disappointed or if you're like worried, that's not bad. Like, don't let this be something that discourages you. But it is important because I feel that a lot of Scorpios are struggling with like life purpose and like, what am I doing with like my long term? And it's pretty easy to answer that question when you think in those terms. Like, would the person that I was before, I was like an adult, be satisfied with this turnout? What led to this? Get that holistic mentality and then also kind of walk into this year and don't keep yourself in that position, Don't stay there for too long, essentially, but do acknowledge the distance that you've come in good and bad ways. Okay. Otherwise, Scorpio, it will be just actually a beautiful year for you and a very innovative, very progressing energy that you haven't come into contact with for a long time. Not that hard to get out of bed in the morning, not that hard to do more than you're accustomed to doing, not that hard to achieve your goals now. And in that sense, be careful what you wish for, but the great goal accomplishing energy. Moving on, Sagittarius in the year of 2021. The last year for Sagittarius was a lot to handle. Some Sages did really well. Some Sages, came into a new like type of material success and wealth. And that can also bring with it a lot of trials and tribulations. So trials and tribulations are now being recovered from in 2021. Watch out for signing up for too much. Watch out for taking on too much. This year is really more so about recovery for you. And a lot of the time we don't recover through bed rest. I mean, unless we've been like really injured. So try on one hand to not sink into, a complete void, but also on the other hand, try to not overdo. Striking an energetic balance is paramount for you this year. And you can do more and more as we move further into Saturn and Aquarius over the next few years. So, some of you, okay, so there's a pretty wide energy with Sagittarius. A lot of Sages in different places. This is most of the other signs are sharing a pretty strong sort of center point of going through similar experiences. Sagittarius is varied. The main dominance that I'm feeling in Sagittarius energy is really busting out the gate. Okay, so if you're imagining yourself being at the horse races and, some of the horses are like, getting so pent up and ready for the gate to open. That's what I'm feeling that a lot of Sages come into the year of 2021 with. And you've got to make sure that you're prepared for that race and you're prepared for that trial, okay? We don't really want more trials right now as Sagittarius. And I said this, I can't remember if I said this, I think it was for Virgo, fellow mutable sign of yours. As you're going to the mirror before you leave the house, the energy is so good to like remove that one accessory or to maybe remove 5 or 6 of those accessories and really tone it down a little bit. So, doing a lot of courses, doing a lot of hours for your job. If you're one of those people who is totally filling up your schedule in 2021 and totally like going big, it better have a huge purpose behind it, okay? Because what is possible for Sagittarius is to do a whole lot of nothing with a completely full schedule, okay? I do feel that really potentially for you guys. So it's just about optimization. It's like the task or the true like sort of moral trial that you go through as a result of 2020 is it's like, can you plan and strategize for the long term and really find yourself placing your energy in places that have a return, okay? So keep a strong eye on what you're signing up for, okay? Because it would be easy to overdo. On the other side of all of this, okay, there are some Sagittarian people who had like major wake-up moments in 2020 and really saw, okay, I'm like chaining myself up to something that is not going to contribute to anything else but it for the rest of the future, you know? And so many Sagittarians have released those chains and now have a huge void to fill. And within that, maybe they've come into a new life purpose. And there are some Sagittarius with this Aquarian energy who can latch on to this like innovative, transformative, and alchemical energy. And yes, go from dawn until dusk and totally change their reality with so many other options in life. That's going to be where a lot of Sagittarius lie, okay? When I say lie, that's where a lot of Sagittarius are finding themselves in 2020. And a lot of those Sagittarian people are going to overdo that and get a little burned out and make that a big like ego trip. But it does take that sometimes for Sagittarius after Jupiter and Capricorn, okay, to remember the non-tangible, abstract aspects of your nature, okay? And there's something kind of important, like not kind of important, like really important that comes up for Sagittarius also in 2021. I'm feeling this around May or June, around the time of Gemini season, where you're truly reminded of who you are and who you are not, okay? Jupiter and Capricorn, actually this triple Capricorn conjunction of 2020 may have actually very negatively impacted the psychological health of certain Sagittarius, to the point that there could be even like a dissociation, or there could be a, something tough going on. So don't be afraid to seek out that good counselor, or to seek out somebody who is able to really advise on those things, as I am not. These are only entertainment videos here on YouTube, as I have to make it very clear. So don't be afraid to do that either. If you're feeling like unhealthy or unwell, you will be really actually supported in all endeavors where a third party objective perspective is required. So legal consultations, doctor consultations, psychology consultations, astrology consultations, all of those things will be very beneficial to Sagittarius, because that's kind of Aquarian. A lot of people forget that Aquarius also rules over practitioners of all kinds. So people who do kind of eccentric practices like astrologers, psychologists, lawyers, all of those things are also a factor of Jupiter and Saturn being conjunct too. So not just for Sag, but especially for Sag, it would not be a bad idea to get other perspectives on what you're doing. And it feels that these other perspectives or these other experiences, maybe even dating or meeting just new peers or acquaintances also might really remind you who you are and who you're not. Like say, for example, as a Sagittarius, you've always owned a bakery, okay? And now after owning the bakery, and maybe you've like started blogging about baking things, you're like, wow, I'm accumulating prestige through all of these endeavors. Maybe now it's time for me to own a bank, and then this becomes like a very egotistical experience of you gaining the energy through ego to go from being like a baker to a bankster, and maybe doing both, and maybe now having a national brand or something. And this is kind of the Sagittarian tendency right now to like kind of go like huge with things and crazy. You might have a consultation about it. Maybe you meet a banker and you talk to them about what their experience of owning a bank is like. And you start to see that there's like a community of bank owners, and they all go to certain dinners during certain seasons together. And maybe you kind of find yourself somewhat a part of this. And you start to see that all of these people maybe have like very, very intense like personality disorders. And you might actually see that it's a personality disorder that made you attracted to this career in the first place. And then that's like where this therapist or where this counseling or where this remembering who you are and remembering the difference between a want and a need also saves you from becoming a very affected egotistical person. So there are like a lot of wake-up calls like that. There's a lot of alchemy. contrarily to what I've just talked about with the alchemy of Aquarius making a sextile angle to Sagittarius, meaning that you receive this alchemy in a harmonious, natural way, I do see like the transformation of a baker to like a banker, or the transformation of a I don't know, a social caseworker to a pop star. Okay, that is possible for Sages and then also Aries this year. But that's kind of not an easy thing to go through. Just keep it in mind. And as a prestigious blogging baker, it's not that that precludes you from doing whatever you want with your life. That's the really cool thing about this Aquarius energy, is it actually shows us, you know what, we forge our own destinies, and what we've been in the past is not necessarily totally definitive of what we be in the future. And that's what you're getting in such a huge dose right now. You just have to make really positive that the new aspirations are not coping mechanisms and are also not compensations for the pain of the last few years. Once you work on that, and maybe, again, having that wonderful therapist or a great astrologer, or just a new self-healing process, you can make your potential for doing these more lofty things, or more uncontextual things much greater. So final note, Sagittarius, what I'm feeling is that you do need less context this year. So the last few years have been so contextual, and I do think that all of you need to have something new in your life, whether this is new love, whether this is a new job, whether this is a new environment, a new course of study. Those things are indicated. But again, Sagittarius does struggle a lot with moderation. So you can be like, yes, this is my new field, and you can like go crazy with it. So try to incrementally get to where you want to be, and you should come out of the other side of this year with like a pretty incredible alchemical mixture of flavors. So moving on. Okay, Capricorn, in the year of 2021. Hello, Capricorns. Congratulations, like Sagittarius. I want you to give yourself a pat on the back because things are getting a lot easier this year. You have breathing space in 2021. Sagittarius also has this breathing space, but it seems that they're not really here to relax and breathe. They're more so here to go wild and, in that centaurian way, gallop across the field. Capricorn is more so grazing. And yes, Sag had plenty of time to graze also over the last few years, but for you, even more than Sagittarius, it's paramount to recover in this year from that insane triple conjunction retrograde of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Capricorn in your sign for all of 2020. Nobody can see the trials you've been through, only you can see that. Nobody really knows the extent of your process right now. Don't try to convince people. Don't try to, get it into people's mind like what you've been through. Nobody will really understand. It's totally, for the most part, up to you to process that. And of course, as I recommended for Sagittarius, any type of strongly difficult feeling that is still unresolved, it's a good time for like therapy or counseling or some type of third person perspective or objective. So keep that in mind also. That said, though, this is a great year for a vacation for you. This is a great year to tone things back, to get a few things off your plate, to have more time on your hands, to learn how to cook, to learn how to do a new craft or a new hobby or a new skill. Something slow and not anything too high octane. I'm going to repeat that, Capricorns. Public service announcement, nothing too high octane for you. Your system is probably a bit delicate and fragile from the experiences of the last few years. So any relationships that are volatile or insecure, anything in life that is like that, any jobs that are way too laborious or hard, will not survive this year, okay? Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto would have propped it up and made you kind of in a forced way hold on to that which was contextual for you for a long time. If strides cannot be made, if you cannot heal your body, or if you cannot have even just the slightest of improvement, this doesn't have to be like a magical recovery, or, I mean, that is also an option. This isn't demanding perfection, is what I'm trying to say. But this year for Capricorn does just not activate anything that is as difficult as the previous few years. So therefore, anything that was so difficult that can't heal just will cease to exist. It feels like, so a job that was really hurting you, or a relationship also that was really hurting you, these things will crumble in 2021, because the semi-sextile angle of Jupiter and Saturn just do not provide the energy to hold something up that is too heavy, okay? Semi-sextiles are interesting like this. I would like to talk more about that angle. Semi-sextiles and quincunxes are what I'm all about on this channel. A semi-sextile just won't participate. So Aquarius and Capricorn just won't tend to participate with one another. They just don't really have time for the shenanigans of one another. So with Jupiter and Saturn are the two planets that we energize through, that we determine our motivation, and that we set foundations and then platform off of. So it's my prediction that for most Capricorns, anything that is not right just won't stay and just won't be energized, or they'll just be like a wall that kind of exists between you and things that prevent recovery. I think that all Capricorns need a little bit of recovery in 2021. It's such a good time for like a road trip or a vacation. I'm not kidding. Like, especially for those of you that have done well, like with money, like why not go on that tropical vacation if you can? For those of you who might be struggling more, as is also really possible, having had Saturn in your sign, although it wasn't home, but Jupiter and Pluto also, really concentrating that Capricorn energy. Poverty consciousness, scarcity mentality, huge deal for Capricorn, huge deal for all the cardinal signs, and pretty much every sign there is, as we are on such an unsteady territory when it comes to money and economics in general right now. That really has to be addressed for Capricorn. If Capricorn can heal their scarcity mindset right now, I think everybody can, because there's some kind of like idea or some kind of concept that you may have become aware of over the last few years that is really golden. So I do think that Capricorns over the next few years do have great entrepreneurial ability, or great ability to provide value for other people after this recovery period especially. So keep that in mind. Also, what great ideas are you having? What crafts or hobbies might be valuable to other people? That feels to be a lot of strong potential for you. But what I really love about the energy of 2021 for Capricorn is for the first time in a long time, things are really not that complicated, okay? I really can't complicate this any further. This interpretation is pretty much it. Like, there's an opportunity for recovery, there's an opportunity for grazing, there's an opportunity for having really valuable ideas and being able to maybe see that is valuable to other people. And there's a great time period for getting away from things or having vacation as well. And it's simple. It's meant to be simple. It's meant to be easy. And it is totally lacking in energetic budget for any type of repetitive things that are made more difficult than they have to be. So, yeah, moving on. It's beautiful though, Capricorn. Like, thank God for this year. Like, this is a thank God type of year for you, okay? To be very clear. Moving on to Aquarius in the year of 2021. Okay, esteemed Aquarius, I'm coming to you to present a few ideas for your very Sphinx-like year of 2021. I'm laughing as I'm coming into your energy. Your energy is wanting to laugh. It's wanting humor. It's wanting to spin things and find new perspectives and innovate completely new types of concepts, relationships, and so on and so forth. Okay, there is a little bit of a crisis, chaos energy that starts this time. As again, what I'm seeing is like I'm seeing the Egyptian sphinxes actually. So in fact, for all the fixed signs, I'm seeing that it's a very sphinx-like kind of ambiguous energy that is very hard to dissect right now. So thinking of anything in your life that is along those lines, like, what could this really be? Like, what's behind this? What really is the direction? There's a new sense of navigation for Aquarius, as you are the most activated sign of 2021. Bear that in mind. No other sign is half as activated as you are. Leo is along the lines, but Leo and Aquarius are the energized signs this year, above all else. There's kind of this new relationship that you have with the universe, or this new relationship that you have with what life is. So Jupiter and Saturn are conjunct in your sign. I have a video all about that called the New Wave Conjunction on my channel. You can check that out if you want more clarification on that. But it's neither good nor bad. It's a neutral. Okay, this is not a positive or negative transit. So that's really important to take into account as an Aquarius. There can be an ego issue at the beginning of this transit. There can be a make way for the king, or like make way for me type of energy. Not for all Aquarius. I know that most of y'all are so detached from ego as it is. But it's just important to remember that you're so activated and probably pretty powerful in your own personal energy right now that it could rub people the wrong way, especially in the beginning, before people really catch on to your ideas and your elements. So ideas and elements, yeah, that's interesting. What is the element of your objective or your character? What identity have you forged and crafted? There is power in ambiguity, but some people don't really like that in the more contemporary modern time. People really like very strong opinions, okay? So there's going to be maybe a tender point behind the need to express yourself, and also the need to remain sort of superficially objective or ambiguous on things. That seems to be an issue. Do take a look at that. Also, your motivation. So if Aquarius cannot see the long-term momentum that they're on, or the philosophies behind their motivation, or the where this action that they're taking ends them up, that strategic mentality perhaps requires more attachment to certain turnouts than Aquarius is accustomed. So there is also an issue in why you're doing what you're doing. Okay. I know that's all complicated. We are kind of dealing with rocket science here. I love, one of my favorite sayings is, this isn't rocket science, but it actually kind of is rocket science for Aquarius, because that is Uranus energy, and that's where Jupiter and Saturn are, which are the philosophical and also law creating energies. So there is probably a totally new way of sustaining yourself in this year, 2021. There is also a new wave, as I said. Big tidal wave is what the energy is like oncoming, and we can either surf that wave or we can be pushed to the bottom. Aquarius is probably going to be the leader of the pack when it comes to surfing that wave. So do expect to maybe be seen more by other people, or to be more in the center point, or very just so energetically activated. All right. So yeah, new relationships, new jobs, new creative ideas, new conceptual awareness. Those Aquarius who have overcome the emotional turmoil of the past few years, while not sacrificing the ability to alchemize that difficult problem into a very symmetrical solution, valuable to not only yourself but to the collective. These are the Aquarius that thrive, and it is a certain type of code. It's a certain type of formula that it really takes to ride that wave. I think it was December Benevolence over on Patreon, where I was talking about how we're all kind of becoming coders of our reality, and especially Aquarius may be the first to really display this, where for any of you who are like computer programmers, who have ever worked with a technological script, you would know that sometimes the simplest lines of code create an overall optimization for maybe the 400 pages of code elsewhere. Likewise, some of you would know that the smallest code can sometimes destroy the entire process and create a clumsiness to the entire script. That is really the energy that you're working with, is like the smallest little components can be the make or break ones. But also do keep in mind the clumsiness of your overall experience. So like, is everything coming together? Health of the physical body, relationships with family, relationships with acquaintances, friends, and colleagues, romantic relationships, career, creative ideas, hobbies, the physical presences in your life of like objects and property. Are all of those things starting to come together into a more optimized, more carefully choreographed experience that is cohesive? Or is there still a type of chaos to every single one that leads to inability to really make an effective alteration in either sector? This is again where it's important to look at things holistically and collectively, and this is where I think that coding analogy is really powerful, because it's important to remember that this is kind of the era that we're in, where it's actually the small codes that create cohesion in the really clumsy sectors. So if you're having maybe just issues in every single sector, feeling sluggish, relationships are just not quite working out, issues with money and debt, if it's all kind of an issue, it's like the smallest maybe new relationship in your life, or the smallest new change in your circadian rhythm totally shifts all of that paradigm into a much more fathomable experience for you. And I also think, moving on, that planning around the air seasons, so Aquarius season, Gemini season, Libra season, for every air sign is essential this year, because there's just going to be such magical, transitory and angular positivity, I think. Such good opportunities for all the air signs. Trying to maybe plan your action during those air seasons will probably make you just like take off and fly very easily, okay? All of the air currents, all of the sort of surrounding environment should be very supportive of you. You're like the pearl in the oyster right now, okay? Everything really does revolve around you, but this doesn't last forever. So it's important to take the bull by the horns, per se, and get very keenly aware of what's not working and get keenly aware of what is, and make a choice. Again, Aquarius suffers from detachment. So even though you may know that something's not working right, even though you may know that something is a great, wonderful thing, you can sometimes be like detached from the changing, or detached from the action that affects any of that. So maybe try to attach yourself a little bit more to the long term, and also to the next 20 years, because it's once every 20 years that Jupiter and Saturn conjunct in Aquarius. And of course, next time it's not going to be in Aquarius. So this is once in a soul lifetime, really, that you get a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in your sign. And I'll have to get on the other side of it a little bit more to understand what's going on. But you'll kind of get a general idea by your season. So February, there's going to be this ginormous Aquarius stellium. And I would imagine that that will kind of write it all on the wall for you to see and wield yourself. So thank you, Aquarius. It's your year. It's your time. Congratulations on having this opportunity of transiting experiences. So moving on to our final sign of the night. We are right at 2 hours, Pisces, in the year of 2021. Okay, Pisces, let's see. 2021 is about release and having an easier time as well. For all signs, this is meant to get a lot easier. Kind of like Capricorn, you have the semi-sextile angle that you're working with the Jupiter, Saturn, and Aquarius. So like I said, for them, any type of huge conflict, or any type of huge difficult problem, or hugely energetically draining thing that returns nothing, will not just have energy for it anymore. So old volatile relationships just probably will not go on with this year. And also, like, what you're putting out most of your energy for, really look at what it's giving back in return, and see if it is really matching what you're putting out. You are a sign that can work really well with the natural alchemic energy of Aquarius. You're the only sign in the zodiac that succeeds Aquarius, that comes after Aquarius. So you're the only sign that has already come through that consciousness with understanding. So that's pretty significant. None of the other signs of the zodiac have the conscious level of Aquarius other than you. So you will have an advantage this year because of that, because you kind of will, at the soul level, understand the end game of all of these processes and all of these things coming up in 2021. So with that foresight and natural foreshadowing that you have, do try to think that way. Like, do I already know the answer to these questions? Do I already know how this person will be in the long run? Do I already know what this endeavor is going to give me. You probably do. You probably have a very good instinctive, intuitive foresight right now that will help you to sort of level up more quickly than others. So with that in mind, maybe this is going to be the best year for Pisces to see a big change or see a big, as I said, leveling up. So achieving a higher position, sort of cracking the code of having prosperity in your life, no longer feeling impoverished. There is a similarity to Cancer and Scorpio, though. The water signs are having a very interesting time this year, being that we're so affected and influenced by the water bearer sign of Aquarius. Although it's an air sign, all of the water signs are being re-energized, purified, filtered. There's a filtration process. There's a new philosophy or a new wave of existing in life. And being that your ruling totem is fish or aquatic life, I think that you will just do so great this year, because I've talked about the tidal wave that energetically is this year. And it's like sink or swim, and being that you're like an aquatic creature, I don't think that you'll sink. And if you did, I don't think it would be that consequential, because you've got gills. So, of course, speaking of your totem. So there is something inconsequential about this year, and you want to be careful with that thought, because what is really great is to see you really level up and to meet this halfway and ascend a lot. Though you've got kind of just a general room to swim, it seems like. Saturn is in your preceding sign of Aquarius, so there is going to be Saturn on the way to Pisces. So, you've got to remember your responsibility and kind of nip this in the bud early if there's like a procrastination or something that is lacking responsibility or something, because you're about to have, Saturn conjunct Sun. If you're a Pisces Sun or whatever you have in Pisces is going to have Saturn in a few years. So preparing for a Saturn transit early is always the best, and just making sure that there is stability and security in your life. That said, it's also a wonderful time to enjoy life pre-Saturn. Saturn semi-sextile is one of the easiest Saturn energies to have. So you probably won't have that many repercussions. You probably won't have that many, tough time, unless you have like natal Saturn in Aquarius or natal Saturn in Leo, in which case the story would be different. But this is a time where you're meant to actually have an easy current, an easy, tranquil, alchemical, flavorful year. Keep in mind the food, what you're drinking, what you're putting into your body. These should all be nice experiences. These should all be nice things that are going into your body, because health is meant to also get better for Pisces in 2021. Also optimization too. So any job that you're doing or any output of energy can be done easier, okay? There are ways to compress things. For example, this video is a great example of it. I usually do 12 different videos for every sign for annual forecasts. And this year I'm like, I'm going to compress this all into one video, because I simply don't have the time to do 12 separate ones. So that's really great. And I think this video hopefully will do well. But that seems to be a very awarding mentality for me lately, is how can I kind of optimize and compress things into something equally as valuable, but also more doable. This is what the Aquarian energy is all about. It's about healthy compression, optimizing your output, making sure that everything is easy enough. Aquarius is one of those signs that loves the easy yet effective way. It's all about strategies. It's all about, the superior way to do something. So with that in mind, there might be a lot of trends that come up for Pisces, or a lot of new hacks per se, like doing things that used to take forever, or that used to be much more difficult in a much easier way, like sort of discovering the part of the formula that makes things a lot easier. So that's just really great to see for you guys, because I think that things have been complicated and things have been going on longer than they needed to, or you've had to work a lot harder for things that were not meant to be so hard. So taking a load off is great for Pisces in 2021. Relaxing. Like I said, for Capricorn, great time for a vacation, or for having more time to yourself, or weekend getaways, or anything that makes you feel recharged and rejuvenated, okay? Because the other thing about a Saturn semi-sextile and Jupiter semi-sextile as well is that on one hand, yes, you are given an easier time and there aren't as many repercussions and difficulties, but then also there's a feeling of ineffectualness sometimes, or like you also are not just creating a huge splash either. So that's why it's a time of recovery. And also, but it's different for you than it is for Capricorn, because you are ahead of Aquarius. So you know this energy better than Capricorn does, or at least you have a more conscious nature of it. So you can wield it a little bit more than Capricorn. And with that in mind, just keep things simple, keep things easy if you could, and try to get away from things that are way too complicated or just will not be easy for anything. Also, it's worth noting that Jupiter will be moving into your sign this year too. By June of 2021, Jupiter will go into Pisces, and that is beautiful. Jupiter loves Pisces. Jupiter is exalted in Pisces. So do prepare by June and moving into July to have a completely different idea of life and a totally, probably more optimistic, refreshing, philosophical foundation. So it does retrograde though really quickly back into Aquarius. So that doesn't last long. There's going to be this really magical point for you Pisces during Gemini and Cancer season of 2021. So June and early July. I want to really spotlight that time period for you and maybe encourage you to already think about that period of time. What a beautiful time for a vacation. What a beautiful time to be near the ocean, to be having an easier time of things. So it's a good timeline to work with, especially because Jupiter quickly retrogrades back into Aquarius. So it's going to be fleeting until it goes direct again and then moves back into your sign later in, well, quite a bit later, actually. That might be getting up towards 2022. So there's a perfect period of time for you there to change the game or to just renovate your lifestyle in the most rewarding way. June and July of 2021 are like the time of a lifetime actually for a Pisces, with what else is in the sky also. So keep by water if you can, keep hydrated this year. There's a lot of water symbolism in 2021 with Aquarius energy, and also all of the air energy is playing an interesting game, air and water energy. So with that in mind, Pisces, kind of riddleistic also. There's a bit of a riddle here for you. There's a question about what you're doing with your time, and you're answering that, and you're having, it seems like, the time of a lifetime in the summer. So thank you so much. I'm going to leave that there for now. We are at 2 hours, 11 minutes, so close enough to 2021. And I hope that you've enjoyed this video about 2021. Thank you so much, Pisces, and thank you so much to all the other signs who were able to listen to this entire video. If you would like to support this channel, I am on Patreon. I also do early, extended ad-free readings over there and weekly tea chats. So if this more than 2 hour long video helped you, I would so appreciate if you would like to sign up for the Patreon page. Otherwise, just your likes, comments, and subscribes here on YouTube are the most helpful thing in the world. I'm getting so close to an awesome milestone on subscribers here on YouTube. So if you're new and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, do hit that red subscribe button if you get the chance. I would so appreciate it. And do comment below and let me know how it resonated for you. Thank you so much, everyone, and happy calendar new year. Beautiful. Talk to you soon. Much love. Bye.